First, let's pay homage to the lineage gurus. Homage to the Venerable Monk Liao Ming. Homage to His Eminence Master Sakya Tsung Kung. Homage to His Holiness the 16th Karmapa. And homage to Master Tupten Tarji. Homage to the three jewels of the altar. Homage to the main deity of the group practice tonight, Mahajundi Buddha Mother. Sumo, all Dhamma masters, Dhamma educators, Dhamma teachers, Dhamma instructors, Dhamma assistants, directors of temples and chapters, all disciples present here and over the internet. And our participating VIPs today are Madam to Ambassador Daniel Liao, the Taipei rep to Sweden, Dharma Sister Judy. Producers for Geni Diansang Shinten from CTI TV Taiwan, Dharma Sister Rebecca Xiaqi. From Taiwan, the Professor of National Cheng Kung University, Professor Wang Li. From Malaysia, the Dr. Kenneth Loy and Martin Cheng Meeting and their daughter Miss Li Chin, Dharma Sister Li Chin. Dr. Ryan Zhuang.
Cambodia.
From Cambodia, the Yongchen Development and Construction Company. The President Chen is outside. And special guest Miss Sally Tan. Miss Chen. And our special guest Miss Chen.
Cambodia,
And from Cambodia, the Overseas Chinese Association, the PR Director, also Mr. Chen, who's outside, and Dr. Zhou Hong. Good evening, everybody. How do you do? Today, we practice Mahajundi Buddha Mother group practice. Did Mahajundi Buddha Mother descend? She gave some sensation, but she didn't say anything. So I couldn't have the interchange Dharma talk, which is saying that Mahajundi said this and that and this and that. And this is the mudra, the general mudra, or the complete mudra. And she also has many of the Dharma implements. And I didn't see any gifts that she gave to us. So sorry about that because I couldn't fabricate something just to make you happy. And she didn't say anything to me either. But she did descend. But she didn't say anything. Because Mahachundi came that in the Vajradhatu and Dharmadhatu mandala, she had her own. She's one of the deities of the Kuan Yin division. And she exists in both the Vajradhatu and the Dharmadhatu realms or mandalas. And the language that she speaks may not be understood by me because the language of the Buddhas I cannot quite understand, so that's why she didn't say anything and I didn't say anything to her. But of course there is someone that could say any Buddhas, any Bodhisattvas, any Herukas, any protectors that can speak to her, and she can even speak to all the animals. She's someone that I admire the most, and this person is X or Chata. And the leader of the Yen Shi chapter of Perth, Australia, and his wife are here, and they brought X to the zoo. And do you know? There was an animal that's called llama. If you have seen a llama, please raise your hand, and Grandmaster too. In the hill across from here, there is someone that has two llamas, a little bit like a horse, slightly smaller. And it is called lama, not the lama from Tibet. And the lama talked to X that I took refuge in you 3,000 years ago. So that was earlier than the Buddha, because the Buddha was 2,600 years ago. But the Lama said, the animal Lama said that that was 3,000 years ago. And then the Lama asked the chapter's leader, where is your mind? So he must have been coming from Bodhidharma, the great master, the great Zen master Bodhidharma. Because Bodhidharma asked the second patriarch, where's your mind? And the second patriarch replied, after looking for it for a while, and he replied, I couldn't find my mind. So Bodhidharma told the second patriarch that I have put your mind at ease and at peace. What it meant is that because human beings have mind, that's why they have their disturbing emotions or afflictions. Because without the mind or the heart, then you would have no emotions. And because the second patriarch couldn't find the mind or the heart. But how did you reply? You didn't reply. By not replying, it meant that you couldn't find your mind or heart. So that meant you were the second patriarch. And the Lama was Bodhidharma. Because the Lama could ask, where's your mind? But Lama is an animal and a disciple of X who took refuge in her 3,000 years ago. So he was before the birth of Sakyamuni Buddha. And Gu Yin said that she had been cultivating spiritually for 30 million years. The founder of Buddhism mentioned, only the founder of Buddhism mentioned about taking refuge. And this taking refuge is a Buddhist term. And yet, at that time, this Lama already knew about Buddhism earlier than Sakyamuni Buddha, and X already had disciples before Sakyamuni Buddha's time.
这个看起来这种剪接的方式，就是那个达摩祖师
this kind of
问二祖的那个剪接的方式是一样。
This kind of like editing
问你说你的心在哪里
is the same.
我是这样子感觉到。
And Bodhidharma also asked, "Where's your mind?"
那个堂主曾经讲。
The chapter's leader have said, what kind of language did the Lama had talking to X? It must have been the language of Lama.
对不对？我当师尊的，我也听不懂喇嘛语啊。
As the guru, I don't understand the language of lamas, but she can understand all languages. The language of a spider, or the language of a fly, the language of crab and turtle, a cat. She understands all languages. Only she cannot understand human languages. Right? Because she cannot speak Japanese. And the chapter's leader said maybe she speaks heart to heart. But do you know? Okay, Master says this today. In this modern world, who has a spirit or soul?
你看看现代的众生，哪一个人有心理？哪一个人有心理？
So just look at people this way who has spirits. We people almost become materialistic beings. Even human beings have no spirits. As moreover, the animals and spiders, mosquitoes. Which one of them would have spirits? Even human beings don't have spirits anymore. Or if you say heart-to-heart communication is that you would know what I'm thinking and I would know what you're thinking. That's heart-to-heart communication. Or knowing, or the psychic power of knowing what other people think. And you're doing this with an animal, but the animal have no spirits, no hearts. And even human beings nowadays almost don't have spirits. How can she speak to the animals, and yet you cannot speak Japanese or Spanish? And there's a language in Cambodia, and you speak Japanese, Shanghainese. And goodbye, Seiwei. We have a lot of Safeways here, which are the grocery stores. But goodbye in Shanghainese is Seiwei. It is hard to communicate the languages of human beings. You speak Sichuanese in Sichuan, and Fukienese in Fukian, and Cantonese in Canton. Do you understand them all completely? No. Grandmaster does not understand even the language of human beings. Moreover, the language of the ant, flies, spiders. Frankly speaking, if she truly can communicate to all the animals, then she would be the marvel of the world, and a really, really old soul of 30 million years that can understand the languages of all the animals. There was a fish that knocked on her door and spoke to her, and she could understand it. And that of the chameleon. How could it not be reported in the media? All the reporters should interview her because she could communicate with the cat, and she could reply to the cat, to the dog. And the dogs were the reincarnations of arhats. If it's such a remarkable figure, how could she not be interviewed by the media? Because it would have been the prodigy, the genius of the world. Even Sakyamuni Buddha did not speak to the flies or spiders. I admire her really greatly. She's really a genius, and she should be on the news and in the media, and we can catch an ant to let it talk to her. I know the ants speak to each other, because when I was little, I watched the animals walking along the walls near my home, and there are two groups, as if like two armies of ants, and then they were talking, and then they retreated, like, and they ceased fire. When I was little, I loved to watch the ants, and sometimes I was naughty, and I used a roll of paper and place it there, and then burn the paper. That was quite a crime. I did had the sensation that Mahachundi Buddha Mother came, and also her retinue, and she descended, and we prayed to her to bless us, but I don't have much dialogues with the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
你看他们坐在这里，都很安静的听，也没有一尊开口的。
Look, they are very quiet sitting here, and not one of them opened their mouth talking.
你要知道，他们脚都是盘起来的。
You know, as Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they must be miserable because they always sit there forever with their legs folded. They may have some cramps and they may not be able to stand up.
很好玩。我看过他的一篇开示文。
I saw a transcription of her talk, and the yellow Jambala descended, and his look was that he had big belly, rather short, rather stocky, and X talked to the yellow Jambala. Why do you have big belly and kind of short and stocky? And he replied, my belly is not as big as yours, because you are the yellow Jambala. So he said that X was yellow Jambala. I read this article. And yellow Jambala give them blank checks. When the four heavenly kings descended, the Dhritarashtra, the one that was holding the precious jewel, all of a sudden, all the attendees of her Homa had the precious jewel, every one of them. And that's actually the wish-fulfilling jewel, that whatever you wish for would appear, like say the 10-carat diamond. So everyone has. But they're all intangible, or they all are formless. So no matter, it's Virupaksa, heavenly king. So now I don't wear anything on my fingers. Why? Because she's so remarkable that she could give the wish-fulfilling jewel to all the fellow disciples. Or the Mazu, who's holding the decree, the jade decree, and now, which is the decree of the jade emperor, and everybody would have that too. And she said that Mazu was wearing the phoenix crown. That was wrong, because actually Mazu was wearing the heavenly crown. So because the phoenix crown is worn by Golden Mother and others, but Mazu is different, because Mazu's crown is the same as the crown of the Jade Emperor, and it's called the heaven, connecting to heaven crown, or the heavenly crown. And now let's talk about
就是道果。
Lamdre
因
about what
是
cause
暗示现起清净现
the
分之
implicit
因。
cause of the pure
也就是说，
appearances
你
to
清
describe
净
the external and
要出现
internal
清净
affinities, which is
是什么原因呢？
what is the cause
后述
to
之
have the
外
pure
内
appearances
缘起融入四种形所生之清净现分，此处暂止，
so
以后再知。
describing the external and internal affinities apply to the four kinds of actions that arise to the pure appearances, temporarily placed this way,
以后再知，
to be
以后再
known
跟大家
later,
讲的意思。
which means that it will be described or taught later on.
奇怪了，
Strange.
怎么跟上个礼拜讲的没有接啊？
How come it doesn't connect to what we talked about last
上个礼
week?
拜讲完的那个啊？
不是这个。
解释这个合音只是一个标题耶，他是讲以后再说。合相
Just a title.
现分之体性
What form?
清
The
净
pure
现分
appearances, as mentioned in the verse, starts with impure appearances of the causal ground of sentient beings who attain yogic union in the path of enlightenment and transform it into sense appearances, which at the ultimate fruition is transformed into pure appearances. Being applied to the four actions, it means the utter purity of the non-leaking wisdom which belongs only to the Buddhas, and also the realization that rebirth and nirvana are of no difference, and not only this, both rebirth and nirvana and non-leaking wisdom are all of one taste. Like Buddhas and sentient beings are continuous, the path and the fruit are also of one taste. Abandonment and remedies are of one taste. Therefore, there is no duality to the attainment and relinquishment, and no duality to the break-off and realization. Typically speaking, like this Lamdre, most people reading Lamdre will not understand. They will not quite understand it. What is the form?
现分之体性，颂吟清净现分。清净现分我已经讲过了。
Pure appearances. I have talked about pure appearances.
上礼拜所讲的清净是清净现分嘛？
Were we talking about pure appearances last week?
对了，四种清净嘛，外形象善事，内密咒善事，密观善事者，究竟实相善事。
The well-departed with external appearance, the well-departed with internal secret mantra,
是合相。
the well-departed with secret empowerment, the well-departed with
他这个
ultimate
讲的是这
will
样
form.
子。
So we will not talk
一般
about the
来讲
cause for the time being, but for the
本
form.
身佛陀所讲的，人出生在这个
Typically speaking, human beings being born in samsara What is the cause? It's because they have karma. So by coming here is we to repay or to play out our karma. That's the cause. But we also say that the samsara is the world of 5 contaminants, including the bodies. The body is contaminated or dirty. There is no purity about it. So what causes it to become pure is practicing the path that starts from the impure appearances. So impure is the dirty ones. Every sentient being is dirty, contaminated. And then, by knowing how to cultivate spiritually, and through the methods of spiritual cultivation, it becomes sensations like feelings or experiences. Like just now, Grandmaster had the experience when Mahajundi Buddha Mother descended. That's the kind of sense experience. So I don't need to see her, I don't need to talk to her. Unlike X that she saw Mahajundi or Jambala, and she could see that she's short and stocky and has a big belly. But actually, Jambala doesn't look like that. Jambala is very formidable and really huge and amazing. But the look that we have here, the statues are because they are carved by human beings. And look at the Buddhas, they all look the same. Because they are carved based on the imagination of human beings, but they actually don't look like that. And every deity is different. And then, through your spiritual cultivation, you transform it into these spiritual experiences, like what I talked about. I felt that they descend, and you would have some feelings or sensations on your body. And this sensations at the ultimate fruition is transformed into purity or pure appearances. So first you have the spiritual experiences, and then you have the pure appearances. And being applied to the 4 actions. And what are the 4 actions? There are 4 kinds of phenomena. The 4 sixthly realms, or the holy realms, or the 4 bodies, the 4 bodies, which is the physical bodies, the reward bodies, the dharma bodies, and the ultimate, the real body. And the 4 actions, they are the path of the merit accumulation, the path of preliminary practices, the path of enlightenment or seeing the path, and the path of practice. Those are the 4 spiritual cultivations or 4 actions. When these 4 kinds of spiritual cultivations have united with you, your body, it means that you are completely pure of the non-leaking wisdom, And at this time, you attain the empty nature. You have seen the path, and then you would know that there are no difference between rebirth and nirvana. Of course, this is only spoken after enlightenment. And not only this, both rebirth and nirvana and the non-leaking wisdom are all of one taste. And then, like Buddhas and sentient beings are continuous. We, sentient beings and Buddhas, are interconnected. You will only understand after explanations. The path and its fruit are also of one taste. Actually, the path and the fruitions are different. The path is by walking the path, and the fruition is the destination. But they are the same. They are of one taste. And the breakage and the remedies are of one taste. What does it mean? Afflictions and body are originally two things, but once you gain enlightenment, they become one taste. Therefore, you don't need to attain and you don't need to relinquish. And there's no need to break it off and to realize. So, finally, all your enlightenments and realizations are the same as your afflictions. So, talking about this is very profound. Primarily, we talk about transformation. We are originally contaminated human beings or people with karma. And by understanding the methods of spiritual cultivation and by cultivating spiritually, you start to have spiritual experiences. Like when I take an offering, this is the water for me, so I make it as an offering to all the deities, and I would chant. And you saw that I nodded my head. That's the kind of sensation that I have when they accepted my offering. I haven't drunk this water, and I made it as an offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And there was a feeling generated. So I slightly nodded my head. That meant that they have accepted my offering of this cup of water. So that's the spiritual experience I was talking about. And after this, there would be 4 bodies generated. And once you these 4 bodies are generated, would symbolize the path of merit accumulation, the path of preliminary practices, the path of enlightenment, and the path of practicing the path. And then from spiritual experiences, you transform it into purity. So this piece of excerpt means this. Once you're pure, you would, once you gain the wisdom of the Tathagata, you would realize that nirvana and rebirth are the same. Afflictions and body or enlightenment are the same. Whether you break it.
这个很多宗教界是讲断法。
Nowadays,
什么叫断？
there are many religious schools that
我
talk
这一生
about
活过以后，不会
cutting,
再有下一生了，就没有了。
which
断掉。
mean that after this lifetime, you cut it off,
什么
and
叫做
there's no
长？
more future
就是说
lifetimes.
恒久，
And
不会
then
断掉，
the
永远不再转
eternalism,
世。我今天
which
转世
it
为人，
means that
明
you
天就
it's
转世成为
continual,
法老，
eternal.
后天就
That
变成
today
蚊
you're a
子，
human being,
再来了，
and
又
then
变成苍
tomorrow
蝇，
you become a
又变成
llama,
蚂
and then
蚁，
the day
又
after
变
you
成
become
螃蟹，
mosquitoes,
又
and then
变成变
fly,
色
and then
龙，
crab,
这
and
叫
then
长，
camellia,
就是一直
chameleon.
轮回下去，一直轮回
So
下去，
that's
这个
eternalism,
叫做长。
continual rebirth.
断长是一味的，
Actually, they're both
这个就很
of
耐人
one
寻味。
taste.
断
Whether you cut off your lives, I mean,
烦恼
this is
跟
the
菩
last
提是一
lifetime,
味，
or you continue rebirth
轮
at
回
the
跟
same.
涅槃是一味，
And afflictions and enlightenment are of one
这个
taste.
是很深的啊，
Rebirth
讲到
and
最深
nirvana
的，
are
因
one
为那是
taste.
如
This
来
is
的智慧
very profound,
才
the
有这
most
种说法。
profound. This is only the wisdom of the
今天
Tathagata
讲这一段合相，
that's to have this
不是
kind
讲
of
这个。
concept. So today we
我
talk
如果
about
不解
this
释
form.
啊，你们单单看这个，
If I don't
拿起
explain
来
it,
看，你们会看不懂。
if you only see this, you will
我
not
刚
understand
刚
it.
我也是第一次看到这个，我没有读到这个，所以但是我一
I
看，
just read this,
我能够清楚明白
but
啊，清楚明白
by
这里
seeing
面的
it
文字是什么意思。
immediately, I am very clear of the meaning of the words here.
这个老公跟老婆讲话啊，
The
老
husband
公
spoke to the
哀
wife.
求的说：“老婆，我可以找个精华的，跟会撒娇的，而且超会用嘴巴甜的小三回来吗？”老公跟老婆要求，
Or
哀
the
求
husband
老
requested the
婆
wife
皱着
that
眉
can
毛
I have
想
the,
了一下说
the really
好，
nice
但条件是
mistress
由我来选。
with
好了，老公很兴奋，大声的
qualifications? And the
当
wife
然，
thought about it for a
毕
while
竟
and
以后
replied,
你们要
okay,
相
sure,
处在
but
同
I
一个
have to
屋
be
檐
the
下，
one to select
就
it.
由你
And
来
the
选。
husband said, sure, because you will live under the same
老
roof,
公
so
期待了一
I'll
晚
let
以后，
you choose
隔
one.
天呢，老
And
婆
the
带
husband
回
was
了，
very
是金头发的，
anticipated.
也是爱撒娇的， 超会
She has
用
blonde
嘴甜的，
and very charming and coquettious, and always lick with the
带回一条金丝的狗，啊，金丝狗回来。
and it turned out to be a dog.
不过没有关系，这个叉叉还是会跟他心灵交通，
But it's okay. X would be able to communicate
还是
with
可
the
以
dog
对话。
heart to heart.
所以很多事情哦，像我们在解释道果，
So, like when we are explaining Lamdre,
同样的一个东西，金华的，
the same thing
金头
with
发，
blonde hair,
爱撒娇的，
that very coquettious
还有
and charming,
用嘴甜的，
that licks, that
大家可以构成一样啊一个人物。
then you'll think of
但
a
事实上
human image,
不是那
but
样
in reality it's
按
not.
佛所讲的，
So,
道果里面所讲的，
but what was spoken
好
in
像是说
Lamdre
由这种污浊的，
from
再变成修行
the
的，
impure ones
然后
to
再变
become
成
the
接受的，
spiritual
再进入清净
cultivation, to become
再
spiritual
到达
experiences,
如来智慧
to
的，
become the pure ones, and then to arrive at
毕
the
竟这样
wisdom
子
of the
是
Tathagata.
不一样。 跟世俗的人讲法是不太一样。
That explanation is rather different from the mundane
其实有很多
ways.
事情确实是不同。
Actually, there are lots of things that are
什么
different.
不是眼？鸡眼不是眼。知道鸡眼吗？
What is not what is it
鸡眼不
that's
是
not
眼。
an eye?
它这里写着
It's
鸵鸟不是鸟，是真的吗？鸵鸟不是鸟吗？
This is only meaningful in Chinese.
鸵鸟它不能飞。
That a bird, ostrich is not a bird, because ostrich cannot run and cannot fly.
河马不是马吗？
And the rhino is not a horse,
应该不是啊。
because in Chinese
壁虎
it's
不
like
是
a
虎。
horse. And the lizard is not a tiger, because in Chinese the lizard is like the wall.
在墙壁上有壁虎这样。来美国好久没有看到壁虎，是美国没有壁虎吗？啊？没有看过吗？我们在西雅图就没有看过壁虎哎。
Like the lizard or gecko. It's been a long time since I heard the sound of the geckos or lizard.
好多只壁虎啊！
At Rainbow Villa, they have them, lots of them.
那你要去问叉叉，为什么我们彩虹山庄有壁虎？
You have to ask
叫他来
X
问壁虎，就知道。
to let her ask the lizards
我真的没
why
有看过壁虎哎。
in Rainbow Villa we have the lizards. I've never seen lizards here. And of course the lizard is not the tiger.
还有，企鹅不是鹅。
And the penguin is not a goose. Because in Chinese the penguin is like the amazing goose.
所以啊，笨蛋不是蛋。
So that's why the fool is not an
傻瓜
egg.
不是瓜。
This is
热狗
only in
不是
Chinese.
狗。酒鬼不是鬼。哎，要找鬼很简单。
The drunkard is not a ghost, because in Chinese the drunkard is like the alcohol
只要
ghost.
到叉叉湖，那你
It's
就
easy to find ghosts
只要
these
你有一
days. Just
天
go
你
to
去
the
了叉叉
X
湖，你终
hall.
于你也知道你变成鬼了。
Once you go to that
这是
place,
不同
then you would
有
know
不同有
that
不同但是
you've
在如来的
become
智慧里面，
a ghost.
看起来几乎都是一味的。
But in the eyes of the Tathagata, they're all of one taste, no dualities.
这个有了。上帝问世人，什么叫做成功？
God asked the man what is
药
called
师佛曾经
success.
下降，跟
Medicine
叉叉讲
Buddha once
什么是
descended
成功的背景。
and talked to X. What is the
看过
background
他
of
的开
success?
示啊，所以我了
That's
解药师佛下
in
降。
her talk
既然
transcription.
问他什么是
Medicine
成功
Buddha
的背景
descended and asked her what is the background of
上
success.
帝问世人，什么叫做成功呢？
And
那甲就
God
讲
asked man
受到了
what
重
is
用，
success. And
乙
A
就
said,
讲累积了
Oh,
财富，
when you
丙
are
就讲赢
placed at the
得
right,
名义，
and then B
丁
said
就讲
having
建
lots of
立了
wealth.
信仰，
C said with having fame, and D is the strong
得物讲得到了爱情，
faith, and E said having
己就
romantic
讲
love.
培养出
F
了
said
出色的孩子，庚就讲
raising
成了
outstanding
成为了总
children.
统，
G
金就
said
讲
becoming a
实现了
president.
梦
H
想，
said is that
其
making
实
your dream
都
come
是蛮有
true.
道理的。好，
They all make sense.
这个上帝就笑了，
And God
你们都
smiled.
想的太多了，
You think too
平
much.
淡的佛陀，晚一
Just
点来
live
见我就是成功。
In an ordinary way and come see me at the later at a later time, that would be called success.
没有什么叫做成功。
In the world, there is no such thing as success nor failure.
是一味的。
They're both of one
这是
taste.
佛陀本身所讲。
That's what the Buddha said.
什么叫做成功呢？
What is success?
你说当总统就算成功吗？
So you
也不一
think
定啊。
becoming a president
很多
is
总统都下到
success?
监狱里面了。
Not necessarily, because many presidents
阿扁也是到
went
监狱里面了。
to jail.
你
Like
看那个韩
Ah
国的
Bien,
那
the
个
ex-president of Taiwan,
朴槿惠是吧？
went to jail. And
他也到了，
Mr. Park of Korea
也会到了监狱里面了。
also was in
因为
prison.
美国的好几任总统，
And there were several presidents of
韩国的总统
America,
台湾
of
的总统，
Korea,
还有
of
很多总
Taiwan,
统。
and many other presidents too.
当了总统，并不一定就是幸福啊，就是成功啊。
So
到最后
by
也会
becoming
失败
presidents, you don't
可成功
necessarily
是跟失败
have success
是根本没有什
and
么
not
关系。
necessarily
所
happy.
谓师尊所讲的成
And
功，
sometimes they
什么
become
什么样的
failures.
成功啊？
So for Grandmaster, what is
是活一
success?
天，快乐一天，
Is being
活一
living a
天
day,
感恩一
happy
天
for the day, living
活
a
一
day,
天修行一
be
天，
grateful for the day, and living
这
a
就
day,
是
cultivate spiritually for the day. That's it.
就算我现在能够讲这个所有全世界上动物
Even
的语言，
if I
我
can
都能
speak
够
the
跟他们讲，
languages of all the animals and I can communicate to all of them, is that called
不
success?
算。
No.
为什么不算呢？
Why not?
因为也得不到什么啊。
There's just nothing that you gained.
你说那些我可以跟他们交流，我可以跟所有的动物
Say
交
if
流，
I can
就以为是
communicate
神通，就已
with
经
all
了不
the
起了。
animals and you
我看是
think
起
that's
不了，
the psychic
不是了
power
不起。
and that you're outstanding, actually no.
没什么了不起。
That's no big deal.
不过，像如果在这个现实世界里面，能够跟所有的动物讲话的话，
But in real life,
天中
if
之
you can speak to all the animals,
上
then
天
that would
赐
be
给的这种
that
很
would
大的
be
这个非常有才
a
能、
true
很有
genius.
才华的，所有动物都讲得通，是人讲不通。
That you can talk to all the languages, I mean all the animals, but not to the people.
对不对？以师尊来讲，师尊实在是太了解他。
Actually, Grandmaster
从一开始我就了解，
really understand, really know this person, even from the very beginning.
但是师尊呢，也是一样，以平常心来对
However,
待
Grandmaster
所有的众生，
treat all sentient beings
是影响到
very
故将来的发展，影响到整个弘法的
but
发
just in
展
an ordinary way, but only when it obstructs
也不够
the future of
写
Two
了
Buddha
几本书
School or the spread of Buddha Dharma, then all
就
I
是这样，
do
不
would,
然能够怎么样？
well, all I did was
也不
just
能怎么
writing
样
a few books.
就
That's
希望
it.
大家能够有智慧的
Nothing
眼
else.
睛去判
So
断
I just hope
很多
that
事情，你用智慧
everyone
的眼睛
would
去
have the wisdom eyes to judge.
一只喇嘛，动物园的喇嘛可以讲你的心在哪里，那跟达摩祖师是一样的。
So a lama in the
他就
zoo
是达摩祖师
could say that where is your
你
mind?
你当时的
That
时候
would be
应该
the
跪
same
下来
as
跟他
Bodhidharma.
跟喇嘛顶礼。
At that
他
time,
已经达摩祖
you
师
should
的话
have
都问出来，
bowed and paid homage to the
你就跟他
lama
讲我找不到心，
because he could speak like
喇嘛
Bodhidharma.
就会跟人讲，
And you
已经
could
帮
have
你安了心
replied,
了
that you couldn't find your mind, and the Lama would say that I have placed your mind at ease, then you would have been the second patriarch.
哎，天哪！
Oh my God！
这里有讲一个18岁跟81岁的分别。18岁
The difference between an 18 years old and 81 years old. What are the differences? This is wisdom. So think about it in your brain now. What are the differences between 18 years old and 81 years old? If what you think match what I'm talking here, then you match. The one drowning in the ocean is 18 years old, but the one drowning in the bathtub is 81 years old. That's a big difference.
在路上飙车的是18岁。
The one speeding on the road is 18 years old.
逆向行驶的是81岁。
And the one driving against the direction, is the 81 years old. Because at 81 years old, sometimes you lose directions, like Grandmaster often confused left and right. When the teacher said, turn left, I would turn right, and then walk forward, and then I walk in the wrong direction, in the opposite direction, because I often confuse left and right. The 18-year-old would have the fragile spirit, and the 81-year-old would have the fragile bones. They're different. When you don't understand anything, that's the 18-year-old. And the 81-year-old doesn't remember anything. Grandmaster too forgets. Actually, the group practice was Mahachundi Buddha Mother, and I almost said Ushina Vijaya Buddha Mother. This is sometimes forgetful, and sometimes I call the wrong names. Please forgive me, because Grandmaster is already 73, so I would forget sometimes. The one always sitting right across from me, she is called Samantha. And I often call her Jennifer. Sorry. You have to forgive me, because I don't know why I call you Jennifer.
我始终记不起那个尊圣雷藏师呢。
I never remember
美瑞是吧？
美瑞 from Ushina Vijaya Temple.
委内瑞拉我知道，但是有时候我会又记到别的国家名字，我就完了。他叫委内。
She's called Renee, and I often call her Mei Rui.
因为我真的是这个英文的拼音，我是有时候
because my English pronunciation is sometimes wrong.
拼音是很厉害。
Simu's pronunciation is very outstanding, but mine is.
现在知道了，那个嘉兴告诉我。
Now Jiaxing told me. No.
也不行啦，委内瑞拉 不是蕊内，委内，委内对。
So it's like Venezuela, not Rene.
Wait, actually.
不停的找寻自我的是18岁。
The one always
总是
looking
让
for
家
the
人找的是81岁。
self-esteem is the 18-year-old, but the
有时候
one
出去他
that's
都回不来的，
always
真的。
trying to be found by the family members
所
is
以
the
必须要有
81-year-old.
智慧的眼睛，
Then could
像
never
师尊在
return home.
观察。
So you have
这
to
个叉
have
叉的时
the
候，
wise
是用
eyes,
师尊的智慧的眼睛
like when
去给他
Grandmaster
分辨。你没有智
uses
慧的
the
眼睛，
wise
会被他的
eyes
外表
or the eyes of the
所
wisdom to
他的外表
discern
是
and analyze her. Otherwise, you may be misled by her appearance like this.
是这样的，微笑。
Smiling.
很慈祥、很慈
Looks
悲的样子，
very kind and compassionate.
但是只要你靠近了，
But as soon as you get
你的
close to
金
her,
钱全部被他刮光。
then all your money will be
师尊唯一的就是不会刮人家的钱，
will be
你放心。
taken.
啊
But
你的
one
师
thing
这
about
边金
Grandmaster
不会
that
把你的
Grandmaster
钱
would
刮光
never
因为师尊从来也不见什么事，
get all
什
your
么事
money
我也不会盖，
because
也不会
Grandmaster
有自己
doesn't
拥有
build
什么
any
事也
temples,
不会有，
doesn't
因为
will
我
not
知道
own any temples either.
什么叫做成功，只有3样，
So what is success? There are only 3
每
things.
天活得很快乐，
Every day you
每
live
天活得很
happily.
感恩，每
Every
天会
day
休息。
you live with gratitude, and every day you cultivate spiritually.
好，今天就讲到这里。
That's all for today. Om Mani
非
Padme
常
Hum.
感谢根本传承。